Okay, welcome to another episode of Limitless Stories. And on today's episode, I have the pleasure of chatting with Brian Wandera. Brian Wandera is a dynamic force of creativity and purpose. And as the visionary behind ValueSpace Media, he channels his unique blend of skills and passions into most of his projects. And Brian is a former Kenyan Sevens international. Brian's athletic spirit now drives his deep enthusiasm for tech, design, fashion, productivity, and fitness. At the heart of it all is his unwavering love for humanity, infusing his work with a sense of connection and meaning. And that's the brand behind ValueSpace. The face is Brian Wandera. So in today's episode, join us as we dive into the journey of exploring the role of mindfulness, fitness, and the intentional relationships that Brian has built over the years to uncover his lessons that have shaped him along the way to become such a force with the content creation space, and also his success from being an international rugby player for the Kenya Sevens team. Me and Brian go way back, and I'm super excited to shoot this episode. Happy to have him here. He's all the way in Australia. So we got an Aussie fam, isn't it? You understand? I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what
yeah.
accent that I don't understand what accent is that, but Brian, how you doing, bro? Talk to
I'm
us.
good, man. I love the intro, man. Thanks for all the nice words.
Yeah, bro. We appreciate you for taking the time to join us in
Yeah,
episode number 7. So yeah, Brian, bro, how's your week going? Huh? What you been up to?
yeah, it's been pretty busy. So at the moment, I'm kind of working on setting up my new place. Just recently got a bigger place, as always, as we'd spoken a little bit earlier. I got a few things coming up with my ValueSpace media thing.
Right.
So I thought it was nice to get a bigger place to allow me to do things a lot easier because I was getting a little bit constrained with the other one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, space is always good, Space allows you to navigate freely, move more, effortlessly. So I like the fact that your line of work requires space. But before we get to the line of work thing, like let's go back to childhood, you know. We grew up
Yeah, man.
together,
Yeah,
we was neighbors.
yeah. We're playing. I remember the evenings we used to play volleyball across the fence.
Right, bro. Like the cribs had a fence, so you play volleyball from your side to my side.
Yeah, man.
And
And then we made a hole at the bottom, so every time I wanted to come to your place and go through that.
sneaking through, I sneak through your side, bro. This
Yeah,
is memories for real.
yeah,
Let's
man.
go back to like childhood, bro, because I remember like the first time I went to the gym, like seriously went to the gym was you took me to the gym.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you recall yourself getting into a fit lifestyle?
So I think growing up as a kid, you remember very well. We used to play a lot of sports. Whenever we went swimming, we'd come back, with a group of boys, play soccer. So I think from the very onset, that kind of got me into being fit, getting active in sports. Then obviously, at the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to put on some muscle. So, because I always wanted to play rugby, I said the moment I had the opportunity to go to the gym, once that was open, then bam, straight away
Took it
got
with
into
both
it.
hands.
Yeah, yeah.
So take us through the transition, because I remember we used to play soccer like primary school. We didn't have rugby, so
Yeah.
take me through that transition from okay, I'm good at soccer, but I know I could be great at rugby. Like,
Yeah, so a lot of the influence, like early on, I had a cousin of mine who used to be at Single Boys. So every time during the holidays, when he came down at our place, there's a few times he came with the rugby ball. So I was like, this looks really interesting. Then there's this really interesting thing that got me like, oh yeah, so you could, go about people like that. There's a time, my little sister Noble.
yeah,
So she was still a little kid then. I don't know, maybe she could have been 5 or 6 years old, and she wanted to run towards my cousin. He was called Wheat. His name is Joseph Witness, but he used to call him Wheat. So Noble runs towards him, then he does a little shimmy, and Noble goes straight into the fridge. Then I was like, oh yeah, that looks really interesting. Then he's like, that's called a sidestep. where do you use it? He said, ah, you use it in rugby. Then I was like, okay. Then he kept telling me about rugby, and every time he'd come around, tells me stuff about rugby. He said, the moment I go to high school, that's the sport I'm playing. Then
Okay.
yeah,
And you were cold with that sidestep too. Like,
yeah.
yo, I remember I used to watch you like kind of just play a little bit like in primary school, and like you would kind of just fake it. Even playing soccer, you'd be like,
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, my boy cool with it.
yeah. That's how it all started, man. Then I get into high school, and straight away I just fell in love with it. I remember there's few times I broke my leg. My dad was the principal, so he's like, with the class teacher, we don't want to see you next to the rugby field. There's this one after, I think it was a Sunday afternoon. It was interclass.
Right.
Class teacher had warned me. He's like, I don't want to see you next to that rugby field. But for some reason, I just found myself there. And when he showed up, because he used to come with his car, everyone's scattering, running back toward the dormitories. I'm there, because I've got crutches. I can't really run fast. I remember he was Mr. Omida. He's like, hey, man, we tell you not to go to rugby, but you're still doing it. Man, I couldn't even run away. But from then on, I just fell in love with the sport. No matter how badly I got injured, I still found myself just going back.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go to high school, you play rugby, you get injured. We'll get back to the injuries in a bit. So transition from high school to your first professional setup. Like, of course, you go through the injuries. You will, as I said, we'll get back into it. But now you transition from high school to your first club. Who put you on to that opportunity, or how did you get in touch with the people to make that decision that I'm going to go from a high school prospect to go to a club level?
Yeah. So like throughout high school, I was like very ambitious, and I had a sticker. I think it was just before Safari Sevens, maybe 2008 or 2009. I had a sticker. It had Horace Otieno, Ben Yambu, Humphrey, who was Victor Dwar. I had it on my desk. I remember I used to tell my classmate one day I'm gonna play, for this team. And at the time everyone's like, yeah, no kid off, stop with the jokes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it goes past that. I finished high school, getting to uni, bling man. Like all the time I post him up when he's celebrating his birthday. But he was a very key figure in my development, coming from high school and getting me to get confident around my skills. Kevin Mombua, he's the current national team coach, so he played a very important role in getting me get the skills. So I played down in Daystar, I think a season. My first season playing the seventh circuit. Oh, my second season, because that was 2013. So I played the second season, the national seventh circuit, and I played really well. Then Queens, Kenya Harlequins come calling. So after that, I was playing for the university side. Then I transitioned into now proper club rugby, and over at Kenya Harlequins, I think the coach at the time was Kado. He was also played a really instrumental role
Mm-hmm.
in now getting me the skills. Charles Catavillis. From there, played at Harlequins for a couple of years. Then I think the guy who got the mongrel in me to come out was Paul. So he's also now the coach at Kenya Harlequins, Paul Murunga, because he was an army guy, so always iron fist. So
Straight.
he, yeah,
Right.
yeah, he got me to be a bit of a mongrel because I was big, but I don't think I was really utilizing my size. He's the
Right.
one who really got the mongrel out of me. He used to tell me, "There's no way somebody half your size could be tackling you. So every time you go into contact, you gotta be more aggressive, and all that kind of stuff."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that. And there's a couple of things I want to go back to before we continue. You said earlier on when you were still on this journey, you had a sticker of some of the people that you looked up to. Is that a part of your toolkit in terms of like visualization? Like, are you somebody who visualizes a lot
yeah,
with like visual things? Like, do
yeah.
you is
So
that
like
is that a part of you?
that's the very funny bit. Like everything I've always said in life, I always like write it down. Even now, the way I'm telling you, I'm gonna set this up. I've already got a sketch of what I'm gonna best my design outlook from. That's
Mm-hmm.
always been my story. So back in high school, I used to say, I even had a book, with lots of rugby pictures. I think I still got it somewhere in the house. Always, I want to do this, I write it down. So even when I came down to Australia, I told myself I give myself a year or two. I needed to do the YouTube, do the fashion thing. So always visualize, write it down, then keep myself accountable. Not always you're gonna nail them at the first attempt, but I know at the back of my mind that's something, that I'm working towards.
Right.
Yeah,
And how did it feel when you had these stickers of people that you looked up to? We're gonna stick to rugby right now. That's the beginning of everything. You have the stickers of people you look up to, and then you eventually meet these people.
yeah,
You
man.
come
Man,
into
like,
contact with these people.
yeah,
What's that feeling like from going to
man.
like a sticker to an actual person in like
And
in real life?
man, you really feel starstruck. The good thing talking with rugby at the time, I just finished high school, so that's 2000. You go back home, you have a lot of free time, and during that period, every end of the year, that's around December, we used to have inter-estate. So like a lot of the stars calling, because he's from the western part of Kenya. Sometimes they'd come and I think it was the Webuye Tans, and I'm there, man, like just looking at them, feeling very excited. Victor Sudi, those guys, Humphrey Kayanga, I'm just looking at them. I'm like, damn, I had these guys in my desk, in a stick in my deck. Now I'm seeing
Right,
them like, wow. Yeah. Then you say, man, one day I just want to be like them. Then as time goes, you get into the clubs, you get to meet them, you see how they work, what really got them into those places, that kind of stuff. It's just really, really, really fascinating. And when you get in such a situation, from being starstruck to working with them, man, such an amazing feeling.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to point out the visualization aspect because I've observed that most of your YouTube videos come from sketches. So
yeah,
I wanted to figure out where did that come from. And
yeah,
I see it boils down to just kind of like from the jump, you've always been a visualizing person, and it works for you because, as you said, it holds you accountable. So I think thanks for sharing that because I think I'm gonna steal that one. I'm a visualizer too, but I don't
mhm,
necessarily write it down as much. And I think I could use some of that, and some people could use that too. So now you are at Harlequins. Now let's go to the first experiences as a full-on
yeah.
Kenya Sevens. What's your favorite memory of that experience, like as a sevens player?
All right. So off the jump, we're looking 2013. So I played for the Kenya under then the following year, 2014, played the seven circuit. I think Paul True was the coach at the time. Played the seven circuit. Did fairly well, but still very raw. I didn't know much. Still wasn't that confident. But I get the call up. I think I was maybe 19, 19 turning 20 at the time. So we went for the first training session at Brookhouse, and we weren't used to that kind of facilities. The way the school is laid out. Paul True, I used to watch him on Super Rugby and just starstruck. You're getting there, training with Andrew, meeting Patrice. It was amazing. I get into that, get the first hang of it, play sevens, the Safari Sevens. Still very, very, timid and not that confident. Then after that, you stay in the reserves, training, just the development team. Then when I fully got into like the hang of it was I think 2017, 2018. But that's when I started getting the reps. We went to Zimbabwe a few times, with the development team, then started getting the full reps around 2018, 2017, 2018 going to 2019. Yeah. I think the best moment would have been the tournament we had in Vegas, because I think that's when I think one of the best tournaments I played there.
Mm,
Going against Danny Barrett, that's one of my favorite moments. And of course, after that, when you hang around the Kenyan community,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that Vegas Sevens is
yeah,
notoriously known for a good time.
yeah. It was it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy you got to experience that Vegas Sevens experience as a player, and also as I said, the Kenyan community out there is quite large, and people do be showing out. But
Yeah.
in terms of workout regimen, because you started working out from a young age, trying to get into high school team, then trying to get into the Harlequins team, then no university, then Harlequins, then Kenya Sevens. What did you notice about the workout regimens, or how did that change you as an individual in terms of workout regimens? Because I'm pretty sure each phase had a different realization. Like, oh, this regimen is different. Like, I gotta lock in. So,
Yeah, yeah,
how did you adapt to that
yeah. So
changing in the workout?
fast, getting into uni, playing as well. Kevin Wambua, that's it. Started showing us a lot more drills, things that we know used to. Then fitness was all right, but again, I remember what is it called? The Cooper's run. So we did it. Oh yeah, I was like, shit, I never had something like this. It was quite challenging. Then you get into the Harlequin setup again. The more drills are more complicated. The demands are a lot more. You get into the national team. It's also another level, especially in terms of fitness. I remember when we used to do like the fitness test. You do like a double yo-yo. So that's like a fitness test. You do like multiple runs. Back and forth till you're not beating the time. I remember, like, I think I clocked like something like 19-1 or something like that. You finish that, you get out. We rested for, I think, about an hour or two. Then Paul True said, "You're going for another one." I'm like, "Whoa, what's this?" I've never had anything like that. I just give my 100%, and we're getting told we need to do it again, stuff like that. So I realized the moment, you know, each level just kept getting higher, the demands became more, and I also needed to level up a little bit.
Right. So,
Yeah,
do you feel like that allowed you to grow mentally as well?
yeah,
Because
absolutely. Because when you're doing the yo-yo, anyone will tell you yo-yo, or sort of works the same way as a bleep test. But anyone will tell you it gets to a certain point when you go into a really dark place. You ask yourself so many questions. You're like, man, is it really worth
yeah, don't kill me.
it? Man, do I really have to do this? But at the same time, man, you get that devil talking inside your head saying, man, just get out, that's fine. But you're like, if I do that, I'm not gonna make the team. So you gotta keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You do that, you go hit the bags, man. It's just different levels and levels. You go into really dark places, but every time you gotta talk yourself out of quitting, and like you said, through that, it gives you some sort of resilience. You get into lots of issues, but you find your way, just coming out. And good thing
Right.
also, when you have people around you, they keep, getting you sucked up, when you're feeling a little bit sluggish, they say, "Oh, yeah, come on, but beat the time," stuff like that. And I think from all of that, you relate it to life. There's obviously going to be challenges. And through that, you talk yourself out of, quitting. And when you're pushed against the wall, still, you have people around you that keep you, accountable and keep you going when things get tough. So all of that intertwined sort of really helped me, when you look at the bigger picture.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working with champions. You work
Yeah.
around champions, you become a champion. Um,
Absolutely, man.
there's power in community that uplifts you, community that gets you going. And
Yeah.
I think the last conversation we had, like, that's one of the things that we kind of spoke about, because we'll get to the Australia journey in a bit. But I think one of the things that we kind of learned is, like, coming out here, it's like you need to surround yourself with people who are go getters too,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely, man.
everything is tough, and there's times where you're gonna feel down, and as you said, you go into a dark place. I want to relate. I want to go back to, speaking of a dark place. I'm gonna go back to, like, injuries, because I know that's a dark place in sports.
Yeah.
Uh, you get momentum. You get, you know, you got this thing going. You're showing up to practice. You got good games under your belt. Injuries come in. So how do you typically deal with injuries, and how has that affected, or changed your mindset in relation to life as well? Because you spend a lot of time by yourself. You're taken
Yeah,
away from your community, and now you have to go through rehab. You have to go, and you kind of have to come back with the patience of, I need to go back to the same performance level, but I gotta be aware that the hammy guy, this hammy ain't the same hammy.
yeah,
So
true. That's
yeah,
that's the other thing. To add to that, there's somebody else who is playing the position you're playing, so you got to make sure at the same time, man, you're harder than them. So it gets really challenging. All right, I think the first significant one was two 2000. I broke my right leg just right below the knee. Bam, it was gone. I'm out. Have a cast on my leg. Stayed out for, I don't know, maybe 6 7 months without playing anything. And at the time, I think at the start of the year, we used to have a tournament called Amari 7. So you used to go to Baseno, play against those teams. So that came around, man. I really couldn't do it. Stayed on. Now we've clocked into 2009. So, I go back, the cast is off, starting to get my running up. A few months again, bam, same leg gone, broken.
whoa,
Yeah, same leg again. That's 2009. Pretty much the entire year, nothing happened. So I come back the following year. Now I'm, I think home three. I think here that would be the equivalent of maybe year 11.
yeah,
Yeah, year 11 or something like that. So form three, that's when again you gotta build everything up. So slowly building up. Then for a while, I didn't have any troubles. Then I also did my knee. Stayed out for a good chunk of it. Then by the time I was really up and running again. I was almost in the fourth form, a final year of high school. So that year, everything went well. But again, given, the requirements around, you know, education and all that, and, the way the system back home is, so a lot of focus doesn't get put into sports. So juggling between, I really love rugby and, I want to play to the best of my ability, but all these injuries, then you also got to consider, you got to make sure your books are straight. Otherwise, you get into a lot of trouble. So juggling between all of that and getting myself back up almost 2 years later was really challenging. And I remember like people are starting for KCSC, man. I'm out in the rugby field, just doing my own rounds, doing the side steps. Yeah, a
right,
lot of my friends would tell you, I come back from the field. People are telling me, man, you bugging, man. What are you doing out there instead of studying? I'm like, no, man, that's my thing. So, people try to tell you stuff, you should be in class, reading, because everyone else, I was just out in the field by myself. If you ask a few of my classmates, ask Victor Muguna, he'll
right.
tell you, man. People there, they're like, and this guy, remember Halfan? Ask Halfan Abdul. They'll tell you, I was out in the rugby field by myself, just running around, stay there for like 30, 45 minutes, and came back to class. Through all of that, I tell my friends, study. It's not that it's anything wrong to do that, but I really loved what I was doing, but had a few years where I really struggled with injuries. Now it's the only time I got to, run around and do what I love. I finish all of that, then get into I finish high school, then get into uni, bit by bit like that. So for a good chunk, the earliest bit of my uni, never had any troubles with the injuries. 2013, so that's Dallas Sevens. We were playing against Nakuru. Man, there's a guy called Nick Klango. And if you ask anyone in the rugby space, Nick Klango, man, that guy was a bone cruncher, man.
Mm,
He would just finish people with tackles. And, at the time, I'm thinking I'm like 18. I was 18 or 17. No, 18 or 19 years old. Man, get the ball. I think I got passed the ball I got passed by a guy called Dennis. I run into Nick, smash him, bam! But I could feel the impact. He was bald. He was bald. He didn't have any hair, and his head was like like a rock. But
I,
his head hits me. He falls on that side. I run a little bit past the ball. Then, as I'm walking back, bam! I fall down. I think I got concussed. From there, the next thing I remember waking up, I was on the side of the field, you know, and my tournament finished there. Fast forward, never played anything after that. The concussion protocol, I think, is always like at the time was like 2 weeks without doing anything, but now it's like 10 days. So that finishes. I walk my way back up. So make sure I'm not feeling dizzy when I'm running around or walking or getting up after long periods of inactivity. That works out. Things go completely fine. Then I go for another long stint without any injuries. Then I get another stupid one. I was in the gym, doing cleans, and I was going a bit heavy on that occasion. It was down at Daystar still. So I do a clean, the weight slips and straight onto my knee. Bam! The knee that always had issues.
My
Yeah.
God, bro. Let me stop you right there, because I
Yeah.
feel like the injuries are way too much. We can't
Yeah.
keep up. But is there any point? Because bro, you're stubborn. Like, and
Mm.
I've seen this firsthand, bro. Like, the first leg break, I saw it. I didn't see it, but I seen you in the cast because we were neighbors. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this guy, you can't go back. Like, there's no way you're gonna play this game again. First of all, your
Absolutely.
dad is not gonna let you play this game again. So I'm like, there is no way. Your mom's not gonna let you play that game again. Did you ever want to like quit, especially after like a concussion? Because I feel like that's the most dangerous one.
Yeah, man.
You
There's
know?
there's obviously there's so many instances. I was like, man, to hell with this. No more rugby. And also the pressure coming from mom and pops. And the way mom and pops are, man. You play
Yeah.
around, you get a hiding. So for some reason, all that pressure kept coming. But like you said, man, I knew I really liked these things. So I was just stubborn. I kept going at it, going at it. Even though for a while it sort of played a part in my grades. I wasn't doing so well, and that made my mom and dad be like, "Man, no more rugby." But for whatever reason, man, I just kept going at it. Yeah,
Okay. So there's a beautiful journey of resiliency out of all of this, and the belief that you had this was your thing.
yeah,
As you said, like, people are studying for finals. You're doing your reps. People are telling you don't go back to the rugby field. You're injured. You're concussed. You're doing your reps. You always worked your way back up, and then you get to the sevens team. You experience some success with them. After like going through the sevens experience, meeting all these great players, international players, what sort of lessons did you learn from them in being in that environment? As that transition from, like, we'll go from that rugby and then to the next segment of your life.
yeah. So I think they always say success leaves clues. So you hang around. At the time, I'd been watching the Wild Seven series for way back. I don't know, 10 plus years at that point. You look and see the way these people carry themselves around. You go just to the warm up area. They get there early before everyone else. They do their stretches. And when it comes to the game, you see how well they prepare. And, that time social media was kicking off. You see their workouts, the way people speak about them. Back home, you see around, you hang around the likes of Collins. A really good example was Patrice. There's a guy at our club was called, but man, that guy was a workhorse. The way his work ethic, the way he'd go about his reps, he start to pick up those small little habits. Try and mimic what they're doing so that you achieve that level of success.
Right. So
Yeah,
from an earlier stage, like, the reps and the habits are things you were absorbing from these people,
yeah,
implementing them in your day-to-day life. So after you've kind of played rugby a little bit, I think there was a point in your life where you decided, like, okay, rugby is great. It's been a fun journey, but I gotta take it to the next step. And
yeah.
I think that's where Australia now kicks in, you know?
Yeah, so at the time, you kind of getting old and finish uni. I was working, you making money, but something considerate, not nothing really significant, but you can move around, but you start to think about the bigger picture. And like they always told us, the shelf life of any athlete is limited. You can only do that for a certain period. Maybe if you're really lucky, do it for 15, 20 years. If you're in a like really, really good setup. But especially for us back home, that is anywhere between 5, 6, 7 years if you're really lucky. But for the majority of the people, you do your bid 2, 3 years, that's it. So got to that point where, and I think I was also niggling another injury. I had problems with the knee at that time, and the coach comes up, says, "Hey, Brian, you're a little bit heavy in the foot, so you got to think about doing recovery. Da da da. We're not gonna use you for a few tournaments." I was like, okay. Now, man, that was a wake up call, and my knee was also giving me issues. I was like, oh, man, I'm
Wait,
almost
wait,
getting.
wait. Let me pause you for a second. When the coach comes and tells you that, Brian, we're not gonna use you for a couple of tournaments. You're having a nagging injury. Where do you go?
Man,
What do you resort to?
so straight away, that sort of shuts you like, shit, man. How am I even sure am I ever gonna get back? So at that point, I just went back home. I never used to live far away from the field, so I went back home. Just sat with myself there, thinking. Call mom. I remember I called my mom, and I was crying and telling mom, "Man, every time I get my stride going, something happens. Now my knee injury." Call my dad. Thinking about what next. And
Hmm.
an opportunity came to study in Australia. Was like, yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I told my mom and dad, hey man, something's come down in Melbourne, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. Then, I come down to Australia, you get here, 2 weeks later, bam, the country is locked down. You know?
Or
Yeah. So
or
I'm like, damn, what am I gonna do now? So I figure out, how I'm gonna, cause you get here, you gotta pay some bills, you gotta get some money going, get some work. But you come
right,
here, man, the country's locked down. You know, talk to a few people. There's a guy who links me up with a removalist company. So I start doing that for a little bit. Then, you know, there's a bunch of boys who have been there for a while. The owner of the company is like, hey, so, it's very unfortunate. It's a little bit slow at the moment. So, the guys who've been doing it for a while, are the ones who are going to get most of the work. So for now, we're gonna let you off. So I'm like, God, where do I go from here? You know?
right,
Yeah, and
right.
it's not like work stops and bills stops. The bills keep coming.
Nah, my boy. Nah, 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 nah. Not in this countries. Not in
Yeah,
this countries.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yo,
Them checks stop rolling in, but the bills
hey, the
keep racking
bills
up. Yeah,
consistent. The one
yeah,
thing about them bills, they'll be
yeah,
consistent. They'll show up, whether you like it or not, bro. They'll show up. Mm.
yeah. So you at that point, man, I'm like, shit. What do I do here? So me and my friend at the time, we started getting things from Facebook Market. So we, scout around. There was I remember this Vietnamese guy, man. He was really good friends with my friend. So we get his ute for like $30, and that's not even the amount of money he charges to hire the ute. So we get it for like $30. Move around Melbourne. Remember that time it was lockdown, so there's like restrictions. You're not supposed to go past certain areas. But man,
Right.
we gotta get that bread. So moving around, moving around, man, getting whatever we could. So, all the free stuff on the side of the, hard rubbish on the side of the road, we come, put it back in the garage, in the evenings, give it a nice clean, then put it back on the market. Get a $200 here, get a $50 there, get a, move like that for some time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Survive like that for, a significant amount of time, maybe like 3, 4 months, just doing that, you know. Then you get a few construction jobs here and there, but sometimes, you go to the site, clean up everything. I remember there's a time this guy calls me, I go, man, this 2-story house and it was double. So I clean up everything, because at the time you don't have a lot of skills in construction. The most you can do is just labor. So clean up, put everything in the skip bin. Then I worked for that whole week, and I'm like, shit, this week I've got some really good bread, because I was at the back of my mind, I'm like, $25. I've been working for like 8 hours, so I know I have like maybe $1,000.
Right.
I called this guy on Friday. Hey, man, I've worked the whole week. You say you're gonna send me through the payment. Said, oh, no worries. I'm sitting, a few minutes. Ching, ching, you hear the notification from the bank. You check, $150, man. $150, and I've worked the whole week. I'm like, damn, man, what's up with this guy? Call him, man. He's not picking up. Oh
Classic.
man, I was like,
Classic.
what the hell? What the hell is this? But
So
you can't really do much. Just kept on, because I said if I keep chasing him, what am I gonna get out of it? And
right.
at the time I was still on a student visa. Your work hours are limited, so if you keep
Working
chasing,
restriction.
yeah, that is limited, so you can't really do much. I said, all right, I can't do anything about it. I'll just find a way and try and see if I can get other jobs. So continue doing that. I started studying, did a certificate in disability, then started working with the elderly people,
Mm-hmm.
people with disabilities. Did that for a little bit. Then that's when I started getting some consistent money coming in.
Mm-hmm. I'll stop you right there
Yeah,
before you continue because I want to tie two concepts here together. So you've come from like Kenya where you were all like from the eyes of the locals and people back home, you're successful.
yeah,
Like your sports career has blossomed. You've been to places. You've traveled the rugby team. Then you touch down Australia, where you kind of like hit rock bottom in a sense,
yeah.
and you had to start over. COVID on top of that, and then prior to getting that consistent income, you're going through this phase where you're now, man,
You gotta
what the
find yourself
like
again,
what the
man.
hell what are you telling yourself in that period?
Yeah, man. That's a really good question because you say that. I remember there was this time I was working at a construction site. So, doing the labor job, we were prepping the wall. So I'm there sanding. I never had any equipment, no goggles, no nothing. So sanding, all the dust is getting into my eye. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I was holding the sander like that. All the dust is
No,
getting into my. I throw it down, man, like, because it was just frustrating, man. I throw it down, and then I asked myself, man, like, I just remember, walking at the supermarket, hey, people calling me, hey, Wandera, hey, can you service? Now I'm here doing this, from walking in the
bro,
supermarkets, you walk in the
I
streets,
swear.
people.
I swear, those are the moments where somebody call your name, you might even slap them, bro. Don't call me, bro.
I asked my I asked myself so many questions, man. I was like, man,
Right,
damn, I'm here doing this, man. From you walk around in the streets, you everywhere in the neighborhood. One day, hey, that's a rugby. You come in, no one knows you, so you gotta start, find yourself again.
right.
Then after that, I'm like, man, bring myself back or to reality. What next?
But
I
the
might
bills
cast,
ain't
but
stopping, bro.
yeah, I might cast. The checks are going stop, but the bills, they keep running. So I'm like, okay. I called my friend, hey man, I got nothing on me, so are you able to, get me goggles and a bunch of stuff? So my friend, takes about like 20, 30 minutes. He comes, man. I'm there, still sanding and, scrubbing the walls. He comes, gets me the goggles, man. I go through and that was, I think, day two or something like that. Day two of that construction job. I was almost quitting. So he brings me the goggles, I just keep
Right.
going and end up just getting into the hang of it. So yeah, you
Hey
know.
man, it's sometimes the puzzles when you're building a puzzle, it's very hard to see the complete picture or
Yeah.
to see how the puzzle looks like even before it's like three-quarter complete because puzzles have sizes too. So the first
Mm.
quarter is like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and then it comes to half, then you're like, oh, this is how it kind of looks, and then three-quarters. So that that part is always hard to kind of like accept during the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And I think another thing that really got me going, I remember before I left, I told my mom, man, I'm going to look after you. So I told
Right.
my mom and pops, I'm not going to let you guys down. In as much as I do everything for myself, I told them, because the sacrifices they put in, and especially my mom, because I know I wasn't the best, of kids. I was quite naughty. So
Mm-hmm.
she had to go through a lot, just getting me going, constantly encouraging me. I told my mom, hey, I'm not going to let you down. There's this time, mom calls me, she said, told me, I need a bunch of money. Man, I only had $24. $24 between me and poverty. I sent my mom 20 bucks, $4 left in my bank account. And that night, I was talking to my friend, we were having a drink, crying there. I'm saying, right now I have $4, but this is not gonna be. It's never gonna be like this again. I gotta look after my mom. I gotta look after my pops. So with that kind of mindset, I was like, it's never gonna be like this again. Gotta, just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. From then on, every time my mom asked me something, I said, "Mom, I made a promise. I'm gonna make sure you're straight." So every time she asks, me for something, I'll look after her. I'll look after her so well. So that was another driving factor for me. That's why I never gave up.
Family,
Yeah,
family,
yeah,
family is very, very, and we grew up together. So like I'm the same. Like I'm the same. Like a lot of times, and I think you don't even realize, and we're gonna get to that in a bit. But a part of me was looking up to you when I
yeah,
seen how you moved, and like I'm like, yo, bro, this guy just got to that country. What the fuck? But like people didn't
yeah,
see this.
yeah.
Like people don't see it. People
That's the
only
real
see
thing.
people only see like you. The amount of times you mentioned you called X to cry, or I was going through this, or I almost quit my job on day two. A
Mm,
lot of us go through the same things. We just don't share it, or we just don't feel like that. But I
yeah,
feel like those are the moments that build you, bro. Like you don't
yeah,
get to be who you are without going through that. And it
absolutely, man.
sucks. At the time, it sucks. I ain't
Yeah,
gonna sit here and tell you like, nah, bro, everything's sweet. No, it that them shit sucks. So it's like I'm proud of you for getting through that moment and coming all the way to that situation where you got a stable job. It allowed you to build your base. Now we're gonna get into value space, the
yeah.
journey of that social media now. You know, COVID hit. You got a little bit of motion going on. You got the bills are getting paid more frequent. You're kind of settling down.
Mm.
Value space kicks in. Talk to
Yeah,
us
yeah.
about
So,
that.
at that point, my plays are starting to play out well. Everything's moving straight. And ask my sisters before I left home, I was like, I want to start a YouTube, this and that and that. I said, once I get myself set, that's what I'm gonna get into. My thing was fashion. I liked a lot of fashion, I liked a lot of tech, fitness. So that's what I kicked off with, putting up posts on Instagram, putting up posts on TikTok. Well, at the time, getting my knowledge around editing and putting I had a bit of knowledge because I used to be like a journalist back home, so but it wasn't that refined when it came to the YouTube space. So putting in my reps, watching a lot of tutorials and seeing how things are done, then I said, you know what, I'm gonna post up my first YouTube video. So I first did, I think, a fitness video, but realized that's gonna take a lot of stuff. I'd always need to, if I want to show a lot of things, I'd always constantly need to go to the gym, or I could do home workouts. But past that, I'd have to get a lot of things around that space. So I
Right.
also looked at fashion. I'm like, okay, this, it's not that it's bad, but I'll constantly need to, be clothes and all that, but which is not very idealistic and something that I thought was, because styles change and all that kind of time, all that kind of stuff comes and goes. So I was like, all right, fitness, fashion has a bit of design element in it. So the thing I really wanted to do is, I was like, whenever I'm home, I can come, play around with stuff. So I said, all right, tech and interior design go hand in hand. And that's what I was gonna stick to. So for a long while, I went back and forth between fashion, fitness, fashion, fitness, fashion, fitness. I said, you know what, I'm gonna leave that, just post it up for my Instagram, then put out my productivity stuff as well. But my main focus is gonna be the tech and design. Feb 2022, yeah, Feb 2022, the 20th. I can't forget the date. Post up my first video. So, things were going well. Like I said, the plays are written down, everything is, coming out well. October 2022, bam, I get a blood clot. So near death experience like that. Didn't expect, actually I thought I was straight because I went to the hospital, everything got checked. The doctor's like, man, you're straight. So I go back home, before I get into bed, I'm like, nah, man, I don't feel fine. I might go to sleep and that's it for me, you know. So I go back to the hospital. They do another round of tests. They found I
Mm-hmm.
have blood clots, you know. And I was like, shit, you know, I was just hitting my strap, uploading constantly, but now here's another stack. So I stay in hospital for like 6 days. Then I came out and said, you know what, that was a challenge, but hey, you know, life has to go on. So I get back on the horse, you know, constantly posting. And throughout this time, you learn a lot of things, you know, how to interact with brands, you know, how to present different styles, you know, the editing, getting the hang of it. So just recently, you know, how to get a trademark for the name ValueSpace. So when it completely blows up, you don't have any people saying, hey, no, oh, we had this, oh, we had that. So make sure
Right.
you tie those loose ends for before, you know, the real thing comes in. So that's like just a preamble on how I got to the point of getting my social media going.
Right. And
Yeah.
I like that. It kind of ties down to your rugby career, you know,
Yep.
how you started off with just putting in reps. You had injuries, you had a near death experience. Fall down for a little bit, get back up. Let's keep it going. Stubborn. That's what I call
Mm.
you. Stubborn.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to like the social media at the beginning when you're starting, because you don't start with the finesse and the knowledge and the craft savviness that you've developed over time. In that space when you're starting, what are you telling yourself? Like, because you can't control if people are gonna fuck with your shit or not.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, now that you say that, my first upload, I still have the raw footage. It never went live. The first video I ever recorded never saw the light of day. I still have it. And actually, as we're speaking, when I do the video of the living area, I'm going to touch on that subject. And
You
just
better, you
yeah,
better, you
yeah,
better, because
yeah,
they gotta know this way it started.
yeah. This way it's that I had short everything, you know, but I was like, man, people ain't gonna fuck with it. So I'm like, man, let me put it on the side. 4, 5, 6 months, it was just on ice, and I was like, nah, I don't think it's good enough. And now that you said it, when you first get into this social media thing, man, you don't know nothing. So you're like, just trying stuff, trying stuff. You don't know if people, are really gonna mess with it. So the thing that got me going, I was like, if I keep putting things away, it's gonna get to a point. I have all this stuff, but I'm thinking about what people are gonna say about it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just put it out. If it relates with people, well and good. If it doesn't, I'll just keep going. And that's one thing I came to realize is this secret with social media. You try out stuff. You put this, it doesn't work. Okay, you write down. All right, I tried this. Maybe it doesn't resonate with people, so I'll try something else. Or try a different variation or change a few things here and there. And just like that, constantly iterating, constantly iterating. I started learning, this works. No, if I do this, this doesn't work. If I do this, okay, people get that a lot more. So, like that, constantly learned how to do things. Same thing with thumbnails. I remember when you first started, you're like, man, how do I do this? I was telling you, just put it out there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, like the crisp stuff. But get your phone, record. You don't know your lines, put it up, do line by line, chop it up and put it out there. It doesn't matter even if it's shit at the first. This is one time I really learned getting skinned in the game. So you get into it, you make mistakes, and that's where you learn. You make mistakes, and that's where you learn. You know?
100%. And I like
Yeah.
the fact that you said you had to constantly retool, because the social
Yeah.
media landscape changes literally on a day-to-day
Like that.
basis. Like on a day-to-day basis. And even as we speak, as you said, bro, I reached out to you. I was like, bro, what the hell am I supposed to do? I don't know. Bro, 1 year ago, I would have never thought I would be sitting in front of a camera and talking. For who?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the thing.
what?
You're like,
What?
hey.
And that imposter syndrome too. Like,
Yeah.
I why do people have to listen to you?
Yeah.
What you got going on?
Yeah. That's the
Because you
thing.
know your personal life, right? And
Yeah.
a part of me is always like, social media is so fucking funny, bro. Because like, you could be having the shittiest of days in your life, but I could flip that camera on and act like I'm the best thing on earth.
That's it. You know, people
And
show
it's
you what
crazy
people show you the good side. They don't see, you know, the bumps. You know, they don't know if you ate that day. You know.
how it controls perception is ridiculous. One day will season 2 when I have you over again. I want to like go deeper in terms of like this is something I've been thinking about the future of social media. Like how are we going to use social media as a tool moving
Man,
forward?
social media is the thing now. That's what I'll tell you. Everything is going. Look at the big companies. Everyone's putting out their stuff because in a few years, I don't think anyone is going to be watching news. Everything is just going to be social media. Social media. You know.
Right, and that's what Elon did when he purchased X.
Mm.
Nowadays, before you whip out your phone to check CNN, you go to Twitter.
Yeah.
You're like,
Everything is on social media,
what's
man.
breaking news on Twitter? So
Yeah.
everything, and it's real time. So
Yeah, there's something I read somewhere. I don't think I'm getting it quite right. I don't think I'm remembering quite right. The first group of people who made money were, you know, they during the Industrial Revolution. Then the tech edge came, you know, the .com thing. People cashed in on that. Now, the next round of people who are gonna cash in, people who jump on social media. That's something I read somewhere. I might not be, you know, getting it like quite exactly, but that was the blueprint of what they said.
right, and
Yeah,
as you speak about that, like I think of what AI capability is gonna do in terms of booming this space because we're just starting to shift from social media as a tool for connecting people to social media as a tool for connecting brands. So we're
brands. Yeah,
shifting, right? So it's becoming more of like a branding tool, personal brands. We're trying to build our brands through social media. So at the end of the day,
absolutely, man.
there's a lot of growth that's going to come from that. And and to be honest, like I credit a part of my journey to you because like when I seen you at work, I was like, I know I've always had a passion to have conversations, but I never had the balls to have conversations in public. Like if I related to the ladies, bro, you know me, I allowed the ladies from way back. So
I've seen you
so
play.
I so like I used to make sure like when I talk, like I used to talk to Shorty, and it's like, yo, you're so well spoken. And then, but when you see me outside, I never act that way because I'm like, maybe they won't like that side of me. And then I
Yeah,
realized that's actually my gift. Like my gift is the ability to like talk and connect with people at a deeper level. Like
yeah,
I didn't want to own it because I was like, what are people gonna think? What are people gonna say? And I shared that with you. I was like, bro, I feel like people are just not gonna people are gonna judge. And you were like, bro, put it out there. Whoever fucks with it, fucks with it. I remember that conversation so well. So I just started.
yeah,
And you kept kind of sending messages like, yo, keep doing that. Yeah, I like that. And I appreciate that big time. So
yeah,
I
man.
think
And that's what it's all about. You know, it comes out to the humanity beat. I always say, you know, they always say when things open up for you, you don't build a bigger fence. You know, bigger build a
mm,
table so that everyone eats. You know, that's always been my whole point. You know, you get something straight, you help others around you. You know, if you're willing, you know, and if that's something that's down somebody's line, man, I'm always happy to chime in.
right, right. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. I like that. I'm gonna steal that one from you.
yeah,
Um, yeah, to get back to value space. So, you start off trying different things, you incorporate different styles, and then you settle into tech. What are
yeah.
some of the big breaking points of like, aha, this is it? Like, what are some of the milestones that made, let's say, a brand hit you up, or how do you notice like, I want to start getting product from XYZ? I'm getting paid from this shit.
Yeah, so you know, I think the first one was I was going back and forth. Then I did something with Samsung. I'm like, bam, all right. So you know, this is how they play out here. Like
Wait.
it's
Take us through how that happened. Like, how did
yeah.
that
So you
happen?
know, I'm just posting up. There's a video I did about the Samsung Q60B, the TV. You know, it got like 140. It's got like 147. Like one of my most viewed videos on YouTube. I was like, all right. So this is how they play here. I get that. You talk to them back and forth, back and forth. You know, the things have been coming here. You know, we do a couple monitors. Like I do the TV I got in my living room. Then I also do something with Logitech, and you know, we've worked on a few projects with them. I was like, yeah, so this is how it plays. The moment I was like, so you can do this and get paid. I was like, oh, it actually clicks. And another thing, way before even that, so I'd put in a lot of reps, nothing, almost a year, nothing really concrete. You get, $200 a year, $100 there. But at the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, there's gotta be something, with that.
Wait, wait,
The
wait,
mo-
wait, wait, wait.
Yeah,
Brian, hold up. You know you spoke about $4 just the other time. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
out here saying $200 like it's nothing.
yeah.
Let's let's be for real, for real. When you get that $200 check, do you for the partnership to work, do you reach out to them or do they reach out to you? Because you're putting
Some,
in reps, right? You're putting in
yeah,
reps and you don't know. How
yeah,
do you get into the game of getting
uh,
monetary exchange into your
yeah.
account?
So at first, nothing was really coming through. Then, you stop, the more you put out stuff, people reach out. And it's got to be both ways. Even if brands are not reaching out, sometimes you're the one who takes the initiative, and that's what I do most of the time. By the time I don't wait for people to come, hey, say, hey, da 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 da. We got this equipment. Are you willing to go on board with it? I'm like, all right, I'll reach out to as many brands as I can, whichever plot sticks. That goes on. So at the very beginning, very 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 beginning, that's what I used to do. Constantly do that, work with a few brands, but since you still don't have a lot of traction, the money ain't that big as well. Then I got monetized on YouTube, and I still have the screenshot. The moment I saw I can post up a video online, and there's I still have that screenshot, 0.000. Bam! AdSense checked in. I was like, man, I'm gonna keep doing this till these figures turn into crazy numbers. I still got that screenshot. I'm down the line, I'm gonna post a video, talking about how that story and how everything transpired. So the moment I saw that, I'm like, this is the play here. This is the play. So kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. You know. Then I did work with a certain brand, because sometimes there's the NDAs you get to sign. Did a work with a certain brand. I was like paid 4 grand. I'm like, huh? Okay.
Wait. Oh, so y'all got
Yeah, I'm like, huh? Okay. So this is how they play out here, and I'm still nothing, man. I'm still nothing. Then at that point, I was like, I need to develop a certain skill, the deal of negotiating. So there's a certain book I read, Never Split the Difference. Kept, reading that, then you learn. Because at the very beginning, when you're getting into the game, brands will reach out to you, especially if you're new. They'll tell you there's no budget, man. Trust me, there's no single company that they'll want to market something and they'll tell, they won't put money for it, unless it's a very new brand, which is very rare. There'll be a certain percentage of money that goes into marketing. So I
right.
was like, okay, I see how they play. But another thing, this is a skill. Sometimes it's not just about the money; it's building the relationship. So you get them, you do it for them, then farther down the line, bigger things happen. They'll tell you, hey, you know what, we got this and that. We need we're getting in some content creators, you want you to come down, then they write up the check for you, crazy numbers. So it's all not always about the money, but that's another thing, we gotta be straight up. For it to be sustainable, at a certain point there's got to be something coming in, but that should always be at the very forefront. Like, oh no, if there's no money, we ain't got no deal. So with time, those little soft skills you get to learn. I'm like, okay, you gotta get the connections, build the relationships. Sometimes, especially when you're starting on, build the relationships even when you're way advanced. Sometimes you do that, get the relationship going, it opens up doors. Sometimes, they'll have a brand, they'll tell you, we got this and this person, man. Maybe they can do, a better job for your brand. They connect you to something else. And that way you
I mean,
find
right.
through that relationship, you get to get a bigger opportunity that secures you even a bigger bag. So that's some of the stuff I learned. But it's not always about the money. But again, you got to get all the wheels kicking, There's wear and tear of your equipment. There's, when you get to that point when you're paying people to do thumbnails, when you stuff like that, you got to get that going as well. But that is not always the driving factor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So I like that. I like that journey of like also learning the space of what started off as a hobby of doing fashion, fitness, and tech boils down to you learning life lessons, business skills, real acumen to like sustain a brand,
yeah,
trademarking your name. These are things that have come along the journey that you probably didn't even see when you first started,
yeah.
you know?
Never had an idea now, and especially at the very beginning, like I've said, sometimes you get money, but you gotta be really cautious. Maybe you might not have money to pay an accountant. The back end or the finances, I do everything myself. You gotta wear so many hats at the very beginning. But sometimes, when it gets to the complex stuff, that's when I get an accountant. Hey, balance out this, and that for me. But the basic, balancing things out, I do everything myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, brands are starting to reach out. You're starting to see the play like, okay, all right, I see where this is going. The Samsung deal comes through. What, like at that point, what are you thinking? What's your way forward?
I was like, if this is how it works, man, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep going.
Mm,
If something like Samsung, and I wasn't doing much at the time. I wasn't doing crazy numbers. Fairly decent, but that one video, you know, changed the perspective for a little bit. And the thing I always learned in this social media space, you're always one video from a completely different life. You do one video, it blows up, it changes everything, man.
wow.
Yeah, it changes everything. You get endorsements, and if you look at some of the brands on personal brands you've seen out there. It's always one video that blows up, bam, and that gets the wheels rolling. The dynamic changes completely. But that doesn't come
Reps,
without that doesn't come without the
reps,
reps. Yeah,
reps.
yeah,
So yeah, I like that's a good lesson. Like I like the insights you've shared on consistency, hard work, determination, and just keeping at it even when you see things are not working, because that's just life. Anything in life, you gotta keep going. And
yeah,
in terms of this relationships, like how did this social media life, I know we're about to, this conversation could go for hours, but I like relationship building because I feel like as you evolve as a person, your relationships with the people around you change, the relationships with your family change.
yeah, and
How did the
that's
relation how did those relationship evolve as you evolved in this space, from the little guy where we grew up playing in the estate to being this tech guru, and you do reviews, get paid for it? Who stayed in this journey, who dropped, and what did you learn
yeah,
about relationships in your
and
life?
that's the thing. Sometimes a very very delicate thing to navigate as you grow, and you get into new spaces. The reality of life, some people are gonna drop off.
Mm,
That's the reality. In as much as it's sad, you want to bring people along. There's people who are gonna drop off. You know,
mm,
sometimes it's really close friends. Sometimes it's really family members. And thank goodness I haven't had, because family is really important. I haven't had the friction around my growth and mindset change. You gotta be respectful when addressing these things, but at the same time, you want people around you. If people are not thinking or have that growth mindset, it becomes really hard because you make 5 steps forward, but you hang around people who are still, they want to have the brand that was messing things around, the naughty brand. That version is dead. So it
right.
becomes really hard for them to accept the person I've become now. And that's why
Hmm.
they always say the higher you go, sometimes unless people are willing to grow and add the skills, it becomes hard to handle so many people. The higher you go, a lot of people drop off. And I had to make peace with that. You know,
Mm.
yeah, it's hard, but man, that's just how life is. I wish everyone the best, but sometimes you go. They always say, you hang around thugs, you become a thug. You hang around people who think positive, people who think positive and want to grow. That's exactly what's going
That's
to happen.
exactly what's gonna happen. I
Yeah.
got two
So
questions on that front, real
yeah,
quick. What relationship in this journey, and I know it's been a long journey, but what relationship in this journey do you place value the most? And what relationship did you lose that you felt like, damn, I wish I could have handled that one better? Let's start with the one that you wish you could have handled it better, and then we'll go to the one that gave you the most value.
Yeah, so sometimes as things straighten up, especially when you haven't learned about so many things, you might be a bit rough with certain people, you know, and that's how you savor certain things. But as you grow and learn, you make mistakes, then you realize, okay, maybe should have worded, in as much as we don't agree, I should have worded things this way, because sometimes the word that came out of your mouth, they completely destroy or make things better. So that's one thing I came to realize, because there's a few things that, I messed up just because of the way I put out things. But after that, I learned, and I'd recommend you read this book. It's called How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Right.
Yeah, so I read that book, and straight away, boom, I learned, how to navigate a lot of those tricky situations and conversations. So that's one thing I learned, because especially where we come from, and those little skills, those soft skills of human relationships, a lot of them you don't get taught. So unless you put yourself out there to learn, it becomes really hard. And even with brand deals, at the very start, I was like very blatant, no way it could be. But now you learn, the more I learn how to address people, that
Mm,
could, even sometimes you don't agree, but the way you put it out, it makes the other person feel at ease. Okay, it's not defense all from the get-go.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right. I was about to ask you, was that lesson learned from like a personal relationship, or was it learned with brands? And I think you kind of covered a bit of
yeah,
that, where it's like some
yeah.
of these skills were learned with your relationships with brands and also with personal people in your life.
but
So
but
it
it first happened with people.
right. And in terms of like a specific relationship in your life that you value throughout this journey that taught you the importance of relationship building throughout the journey, which one stands out to you the most?
Yeah, but I mean, I think the most is my parents, because they've stood with me through it all, man.
Right.
Yeah, from the days when your mom and dad don't want to see you because you're running amok.
Yeah.
You know, because I gotta be honest, I wasn't always like this. There's a point in my life where I was a bit crazy.
All right.
From that
So
on, man, they stuck by me. They stuck by me and ensured. I just kept it going. My dad, in as much as there's points where we didn't quite get along, he's there. He's provided. And I gotta be honest, it hasn't always been straight with me and my dad, but it got to a point. The more you mature, I ironed out a few things with him. We got it straight now. So now we are the best of friends. Which brings me to another thing. They always says, as a kid, you idolize your dad. As you grow, he becomes your enemy. Then it gets to a point where, as you go older, he becomes your hero. No, he becomes your hero as a kid. Then you become an enemy. Then as you get older, you now see how an idol he is, on how important role he played, and that's been the case for me. I think a lot of my teenage years, we maybe teenage till maybe like 22, 23. There was a lot of friction between the two of us, but right now things are straight. Yeah,
a lot of head butting, a lot of
yeah,
head
yeah,
butting. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's beautiful, bro, because our parents, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. I was telling them like my parents as well are like my best friends. And
Mm,
I was literally telling them like I didn't know my parents. Like I was around my parents, but I didn't really know them for the longest time. And they didn't know me. So there was a point in time where they had an idea of who I was and I had an idea of who they were. But as I grew and became older, I
yeah,
started to understand this were just two individuals
yeah,
who became a piece through marriage and they had to figure life out.
yeah,
And I'm figuring that shit out right now. So it's like, damn.
yeah. Same thing. For me, it took so long because I gotta be honest. the complete opposite of all my siblings. I always went the opposite way. I wasn't so much into books and all that. Yeah, that wasn't my thing. Sports and all that. That's just the complete. So, my parents. And I also don't blame them. The way they grew up, the kind of lifestyle they were used to was, go to school, and there's nothing wrong with going to school. That's one thing I gotta put straight. Go to school, get a job. And, I remember I used to tell them about, this rugby, this YouTube stuff. At first it didn't make any sense, but now, it's starting to come really straight, and I'm really thankful to God that, they also that's the other thing. People evolve. The older you grow, people get new perspectives, and throughout the whole journey, that's a relationship because it gets to a certain point. That's usually the make or break. If, especially with your parents, if you're not on board or you don't get things in sync, it gets, especially when you get to a point where you're an adult. Most people say, after all, I do my own thing, so there's nothing to worry about them. But I'm grateful to God. For us, it never got to that point, and we've always worked out things, even when you're not in the same of terms. And like I said, learning how to address issues in the points of conflict, that's, I think, one of the biggest skills I've come to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a testament to like the journey. As you know yourself better, what I've realized is other people get to know you as well. Like
Yeah.
it becomes easier for other people to understand your brand when you understand your brand yourself,
Yeah.
because you are the core voice and the core communicator of everything that encompasses you as an individual. So
Yeah.
the ability to transmute that to other people is paramount to your ability to transmute that information to the same
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So
And it's called clarity. The moment you know yourself and you know what you stand for, it's it's not hard for other people to see exactly, what kind of person you are.
the domino effect is
Yeah.
you know yourself, and the people
Yeah.
who understand you will gravitate towards you, and the people who don't will gravitate away.
Yeah.
And that's
Straight
where
away.
it's like people start falling off and then others join in. That's life. You got to make
Yeah.
peace with it. So yeah, bro. Hey, man, that family is important, and I'm glad that we see it
Yeah.
that way. I know this convo can go for another hour, and I'm not even done. So I'm gonna save it
Yeah.
for season 2, because I know you'll be back, because I know this journey is just getting started. Uh,
Yeah.
I know there's a lot that you still gotta accomplish. There's a lot more about ValueSpace that we're yet to learn, but I'll save that for the next season. So
Yeah.
for right now, I wish you the best in when you're growing your new place, as you continue to bud this content creation game. Keep inspiring, keep sharing, keep doing you, keep the consistency, keep the discipline, bro. It's all love from my end. But typically, before we end the episode, I like to ask my guests, uh, when you think about your journey all the way, what word comes into mind? So if I was to ask you, it all boils down to
Resilience for me.
resilience.
Yeah.
Why
That's
resilience?
Yes, because through it all, I'd give it another one, but through it all, resilience, you go through lots of ups and downs, but if you stay the course, good things tend to happen. It's not a guarantee, but what I've come to realize, you stay resilient and you put your mind to something, things are gonna happen down the track, and the thing is, you don't just stick to one thing and say, all right, since this is the way I've decided, that's how I'm gonna be. Because sometimes our preconceived ideas, it's all sometimes it's a bit far from reality, but actually that's the craze you gotta have. You gotta be maniacal and think about it. People till people look at you and, oh, man, what's wrong with this guy?
Hmm.
Through it all, be focused on what you got, but adaptive in your ways. So you set out to do something, things come down the drain, but keep going and adjust with the changing times. I think that's how I'd sum it up.
Hey man, that's a perfect way to. I think that's a perfect way to kind of end the convo, because like from your story, it's a lot of resilience, and that's why I feel like me and you share a lot of open conversations, because my journey is also based on resilience. It's just that I've never had the space to share it. But I love when people share their stories, because a huge part of what I do is the ability to transmute thoughts in a very thoughtful way, connective way. And I value connection, bro. I love human connection. I love bringing people together and just kind of like inspiring other people, bro, because this life is too short. You only got one chance. Do the best that you can. Just before I go, I think the funny thing is I thought your word was going to be discipline,
Yeah.
because and it's funny because like I know like there's a naughty side to you, and you've not always been like this, but like from the outside looking in, a lot of people can associate like, being a national sevens player and consistently dropping content. That takes a lot of discipline. You can have all the mental visualizations that you want, but the action gotta come from the doing.
Yeah.
Because I learned that, because for the longest time I always used to tell, when you speak about your dreams, it gives you a false hit of dopamine. Like it gives you this feeling like you're actually doing it when you're not. The real test is when you can actually speak it and walk into it. Now
Yeah.
that's where growth happens. That's when you
Yeah.
start learning. Am I really cut for this shit? Is this
Yeah.
really something that I want to do? So for the longest time for me, it was just talking. Yeah, one day I want to do this. Yeah, one day ain't gonna pay no bills, and one day ain't gonna learn something, bro. So at some point, you gotta go out there and walk the talk. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I kind of learned from you, is the ability to just kind of like, I want to do this. And a bunch of my guests too, the guests who've come on this platform, bro, I love them so much, because every single one of them, there's a core theme, is I see it, I plan it, I execute it, and
Yeah.
that's it. So,
Yeah.
man, Brio, thanks so much. Thanks so much. Where can people find you? What avenues? What media do you have?
Yeah. So for social media, if you want to find me on Instagram, you can check me out at _official_Brian Wandera. That's the same with TikTok. Then if you want to get me on YouTube, it's the ValueSpace. If you want to get me on Twitter, it's at Brian Kavi, Khavi.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like how me and you have KH in our names, because where we're
Yeah.
from, that's Mahambi, but when you come out
Yeah.
here, you gotta say Makambi or Kavi. I'm like, who's Kavi, bro? But that's just us Luya men trying to
Yeah.
be, a little. We're assimilating. We're
Yeah.
assimilating. That's what I like to say it. All right, bro. Any final thoughts before we shut down the episode?
Yeah, man. Just wishing everyone the best, man, and keep at it.
All right, my boy.
Yeah.
Episode 7 wrapped up. Brio, thanks for the time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, bro.
All right, peace out, my boy.